US President Donald Trump has called on Jewish voters in New York City not to support Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the city's upcoming mayoral election. The remarks posted on Trump's Truth Social account have ignited widespread political reaction and renewed debate over religion, identity, and the Israel-Gaza conflict's impact on American politics. A post shared on the president's verified Truth Social page stated, "Any Jewish person who votes for Zohran Mamdani, a proven and self-professed Joe E.W. hater, is a stupid person." The message, repeated in two separate posts within minutes, was among the strongest language yet from President Trump against a US city candidate this election season. It came as voting entered its final phase in New York, where Mamdani, a Democratic state legislator from Queens and a prominent voice on progressive causes, is leading in several opinion polls. Mamdani's campaign has centered on economic justice, housing, reform, and anti-poverty initiatives. But his foreign policy views, particularly his support for the Palestinian cause and criticism of Israeli military operations in Gaza, have placed him at the center of national controversy. Trump's intervention appears aimed at energizing pro-Israel voters and conservative Jewish communities ahead of Tuesday's mayoral vote. His post accused Mandani of anti-Semitism without citing specific statements. While the White House declined to elaborate on the president's post, senior campaign aides described it as a defense of Jewish Americans against anti-Israel extremism. Mamdani's team swiftly responded, calling the remarks false and divisive. In a written statement, the candidate said his campaign stood firmly against all forms of hatred, including anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and racism. He emphasized that his criticism of the Israeli government's actions should not be conflated with prejudice toward Jewish people. "I have spent my life building bridges between communities," Mamdani said in a recent public address. "We can advocate for peace and justice without resorting to hate." The exchange adds a new layer of tension to an already polarizing New York City election. Trump's remarks mark one of the few occasions a sitting US president has directly weighed in on a local mayoral contest, particularly with such pointed language. Political analysts say the move underscores Trump's broader effort to frame the 2025 political landscape around cultural and ideological divides, especially issues tied to Israel and the Middle East. The president's comments also come as Washington maintains a complicated diplomatic stance amid the ongoing Gaza ceasefire negotiations and the wider regional instability that has followed. Zohran Mamdani, 34, represents parts of Astoria, Queens, in the New York State Assembly and is known for his progressive policies on housing, climate justice, and healthcare. The son of Ugandan and Indian immigrants, he has been a vocal critic of US military aid to Israel, calling for conditionality tied to human rights compliance. Those views have drawn sharp criticism from pro-Israel advocacy groups, including the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, which has labeled several of Mamdani's statements as dangerously misinformed and one-sided. In contrast, Mamdani has received endorsements from progressive organizations and figures within the Democratic Party who argue that his positions reflect a growing generational shift within US politics. At a campaign rally last month, he said, "My commitment is to peace, to human rights, and to every New Yorker who believes that justice must not stop at the water's edge." Community reaction to Trump's comments has been mixed. Some Jewish leaders in New York expressed alarm at the president's language. Rabbi David Baum, a community organizer in Manhattan, said, "Using such inflammatory terms to describe a fellow American is reckless and dangerous. Disagreement is legitimate, but this kind of rhetoric fuels division." Others welcomed Trump's statement, describing it as a necessary warning against what they see as the mainstreaming of anti-Israel sentiment in progressive politics. "The president is standing up for Jewish voters," said Rachel Klein, a Brooklyn-based activist. "Too many politicians are silent when candidates like Mamdani blur the line between criticism of Israel and anti-Semitism." The Mamdani campaign, meanwhile, has continued its outreach to diverse religious communities across the 5 boroughs, emphasizing unity and coexistence. Campaign volunteers distributed flyers at several polling stations today, bearing the slogan, "New York for everyone." Political experts note that Trump's social media intervention may have strategic implications beyond the city's borders. It comes as national attention grows on the 2026 congressional midterms and as the administration seeks to consolidate support among religious conservatives and pro-Israel voters. Dr. Hannah Rosen, a political scientist at Columbia University, said the post reflects a calculated use of identity politics in a hyper-local race that carries national symbolism. She added that the confrontation could either mobilize Trump's base or backfire among moderate Jewish voters who prioritize civility and tolerance. Mamdani, who identifies as a Muslim American, has often spoken about his multicultural upbringing and his experiences growing up in New York. In recent interviews, he has reiterated his condemnation of anti-Semitism. There is no place for hate in this city, not in our streets, not in our politics, not in our hearts, he said. The Anti-Defamation League, ADL, declined to comment directly on Trump's post, but reaffirmed its position against all forms of anti-Semitism and political incitement. The White House has not announced any formal statement on the controversy. Administration sources said the president's social media activity remains a personal communication channel, though it often reflects his political instincts and campaign messaging. In past election cycles, Trump has frequently leveraged his Truth Social platform to rally supporters and attack opponents, bypassing traditional media outlets. His latest message about Mamdani drew tens of thousands of reactions within hours, trending across social media under hashtags related to both number Trump and number Mamdani. Local Jewish community organizations in New York have urged voters to remain focused on the city's pressing issues, including housing affordability, public safety, and education funding. Sarah Levine, director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York, said, "We urge all New Yorkers to vote based on policies and integrity, not fear or inflammatory rhetoric." The controversy has injected new volatility into the final stretch of the campaign. As of Monday night, early voting turnout had reached record levels, with more than 750,000 ballots cast citywide, a historic high for a municipal election. Despite the president's remarks, Mamdani's campaign reported no plans to alter its schedule or messaging. Aides confirmed that he will hold his final pre-election rally in Union Square later this evening, where he is expected to address Trump's comments directly. Analysts say the timing of the president's statement less than 24 hours before polls close could have unpredictable effect. While some voters may be swayed by Trump's appeal, others could interpret it as an overreach into local democracy. In Washington, reaction within Congress was muted. Lawmakers from both parties avoided direct comment, though some Democratic members privately expressed concern that the incident could further polarize an already tense political environment. As the race enters its final hours, both campaigns are intensifying outreach. Trump's Republican allies in New York have echoed his message, warning voters against what they describe as the radicalization of the city's leadership. Mamdani's supporters, in turn, have condemned what they call a smear campaign from the highest office in the land. Election officials have confirmed that polling stations will remain open until 9 p.m. Eastern Time, with results expected later in the night. The outcome will determine not only the future leadership of America's largest city, but also signal how national political tensions, from Middle East policy to social identity, are reshaping local elections. In New York and Washington alike, observers say the controversy reflects the deep divisions defining the U.S. political landscape. In 2025, divisions over race, religion, and the limits of political expression. In summary, President Donald Trump has publicly urged Jewish voters to reject Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral race, calling him a Jew hater. Mamdani has denied the accusation, reaffirming his opposition to all forms of hate. The incident has ignited national debate ahead of the city's historic vote. As New York heads to the polls, the clash between the president's rhetoric and the candidate's message of inclusion underscores how local politics has become a new front in America's broader cultural and ideological battles.